Can everyone see this BanKillerDrones? I will hope so. I want to talk about a number of false impressions and media narratives, and one is the problem of the good drones. There are quite a few hurdles we have to clear before we can get people to support banning armed drones or surveillance drones. One is the existence of good drones, which seems very silly, but it is the number one cause of failures to pass local resolutions against drones. Unlike some of the hurdles, this one is fact-based. It is simple-minded, but fact-based. There really are drones for fire and rescue and science research and toys and lovers of technology and even peace activists like Rachel Small, who's on our call from World Beyond War Canada, tracking weapons shipments with drones. But we can ban selling deadly poisonous mushrooms even though other mushrooms taste great in pasta sauce. We can allow cooking those mushrooms in a frying pan even while banning hitting your neighbor in the head with the frying pan. And we can ban killer drones without banning toy drones. We can even devise ways to ban drone surveillance without banning drones with cameras if we put half as much effort into it as goes into creating drones. Then we have the problem of the imaginary drones. That is what people, at least in the United States, imagine drones do, which is wildly different from what drones actually do or ever did. People imagine that killer drones are used against identified targets who have been convicted of horrible crimes in absentia, who cannot possibly be arrested, who are in the very act of committing mass murder of those most valuable beings on the earth, US citizens, and who are alone in their nefarious lairs, far from any innocent people whom it might be unnecessary to blow up. None of these things is true. But we will never ban drones as long as people believe this fantasy, which has been co-produced by the Pentagon and Hollywood. Then we have the problem of the smart drones. A hurdle on the way to banning all killer drones is the idea that all we need to do is ban the drones that are fully autonomous. A drone that decides on its own when and where to launch a missile is unacceptable, while a drone that relies on some future suicide risk being ordered to push a button is supposedly acceptable. While I would be happy to ban any particular type of deadly weapon, normalizing non-fully autonomous drones is simply crazy. It violates laws against murder, laws against war, and the core of basic morality. We also have the problem already touched on, the normalization of drones. If you search on Google for the words drones and morality, you will get results almost entirely from the years 2012 through 2016. If you search for the words drones and ethics, you will come up with articles almost entirely from the years 2017 to 2020. Reading the various websites confirms the obvious hypothesis that, as a rule, but with plenty of exceptions, morality is what people mention when an evil practice is still shocking and objectionable, whereas ethics is what they talk about when a practice is normal, inevitable, part of life, but in need of tweaking into the very most proper shape. We also have the problem of the patriotic America First drones. The US exports more weapons than it buys itself and fights all of its wars against US-made weapons, yet people get teary-eyed and flag-loving and viciously patriotic at the very mention of the weapons industry. Not only are drones, like other weapons, not uniquely identifiable with the star-spangled nationalism, but the US military is now in wars with drones on the other side, after having been the leader in the proliferation of drones and the promotion of a drones arms race, including through intentional sales and through the apparent capture and reverse engineering of US drones. One study finds that 5 nations have now exported armed drones, while dozens of nations and some non-nations have imported them. A report finds that over 3 dozen nations have got armed drones. Then there's the problem of distance. Armed drones are imagined to be far away. Would you rather have a real war, people ask me? At least with a drone war, nobody gets killed. People who count as nobody are usually very far away. But of course, drone bases are attacked. Militaries that use drones generate more enemies than they kill. Drone pilots commit suicide. Drones surveil Black Lives Matter rallies in the indispensable nation itself and surveil its borders and anywhere within flying distance of its borders. And they do test flights, and they sometimes crash in US towns. Plus, local police departments all adore and desire them. There's also the problem of top secret drones. Drones are secretive, presidential, imperial, employed by people wiser and with better information than mere humans have, because they won't give us any information. It's best for us not to question. If there weren't a good reason for the drones, why would they be sending people to prison for telling us what the drones do? This too is propaganda that we have to overcome. Drones are special. They're above the law. They're outside the law. Like Henry V or Karl Rove, they make their own laws. War is illegal under the UN Charter and the Kellogg-Briand Pact. Murder is illegal in every corner of the world. Why redundantly ban weaponized drones? The answer, of course, is for the possibility of getting that new law adhered to by some parties. Drones offend some people because they're cowardly or unfair, but they should offend us because they make murder easier. And we should be outraged by the reason they make murder easier, namely the idea that people who don't matter can be slaughtered without risking the life of anyone who does matter. With miles and miles yet to go, we have seen definite movement in US corporate media on respecting the value of Black lives, as long as those Black lives are US Black lives. The drone problem could be addressed if the other 96% of human lives were thought to even somewhat matter. And there would be no drone problem to worry about if they were understood to matter fully. The supposed impossibility of action, excuse me, all is not hopeless in the world of anti-drone activism. In my town of Charlottesville, Virginia, in 2013, we successfully urged the city council to pass a resolution against drones. It said, quote, "The City Council of Charlottesville, Virginia endorses the proposal for a 2-year moratorium on drones in the state of Virginia and calls on the United States Congress and the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Virginia to adopt legislation prohibiting information obtained from the domestic use of drones from being introduced into a federal or state court, and precluding the domestic use of drones equipped with anti-personnel devices, meaning any projectile, chemical, electrical, directed energy, visible or invisible, or other device designed to harm, incapacitate, or otherwise negatively impact a human being, and pledges to abstain from similar uses with city-owned, leased, or borrowed drones." You can pass a similar law in any locality.